Okay, y'all. We should be recording. So when you open up Blender, you're going to see. You should have a stylus like this, and this is for your Surface Go. When you open up Blender, you should see. I'm gonna just go and open a new thing, so you can see it. So the first thing I wanted y'all to do was play around with all the stuff, the general navigation tools in the general setting. But once you get done that, we're gonna go ahead and open up sculpting or do a new sculpting thing, and it's gonna look a lot like this. So first, I'm gonna move myself out of the way. So the first thing I want you to do is to get a little bit familiar with the way that this looks. Um, the first thing's gonna be that your if you look over here, that's going to be the draw tool. You want that. And you want to stay on that for now because um, sometimes people go into the other tools and do a lot of things that are really just going to confuse you more until you get a little bit more familiar with the program. So right now it's going to open and start you with just a sphere. And then you're going to go over here to the tools, the active tools, and you're going to see your brush settings. And you might find this a little bit familiar if you're used to Photoshop. And yeah, you had some other classes with some of your other teachers that you use brushes. The next thing you want to do after you select that is you want to go to this dynamic topology toggle and select that. That's important. And of course, your navigation is right here. And if you're using a stylus like this, your navigation tool, you can kind of move your navigation around. Now you can't see anything because it's just a perfect sphere. Um, the next thing is I want you to know that you can zoom in and out using that by just dragging the stylus across the space. This little thing here is actually a camera, and that's primarily for animation. You can select it and delete it, but I don't even need to mess with it because I'm going to be so close to this object, I'm not going to worry about it. So you can see I can adjust my radius. You can see that here. And I'm adjusting and playing around with the stylus. It's really, really nice to do this on a Surface Go. It's so much easier than using a different type of tool. So now that I did that, I'm going to show you what I just did. So you can see what I just did. Okay, and I'm going to Control Z and just get rid of that. But you can see I can change the strength of this and the hardness here. If And the first thing I want you to do, since we're doing a project that's a self-portrait project, I want you to focus on just doing the volume of your head. So you're just going to end up sculpting the, you want to sculpt basically just the volume of your head. You don't want to focus on details like, I always tell people include your hair into this too. I just did this as an example. I'm gonna go back here. You can see how it looks here. It looks kind of funny. Now there's an add and a subtract over here, and subtract. So if I subtract, I can. So if I go and click subtract, I can go and delete. It'll do the opposite. Now this thing is kind of like a weird bubble. It's a mesh, and so you can puncture your bubble, and you don't want to puncture your bubble. I'm gonna go ahead and Control Z, get rid of everything. But I wanted you to see what you could do there. So might want to just play around with that, and you can see how I'm changing my radius a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So once I made it bigger, all right. So now I made it bigger, and you can see what I'm doing to the sphere. I'm going to go ahead and Control Z again. I'm going to go ahead and add instead of subtract now, because sculpting is basically consisted of a additive or a subtractive process. Okay, so now I'm using my stylus and I'm kind of making shape of the head. You can see over here how I'm like, changing this over here, and I'm just like moving around the piece. Now, one thing I want to warn you about this dynamic topology, the reason why you want to do that is because when you zoom in and out, when I zoom out, ooh, it'll adjust based on your how far you are away. So it's gonna make more different details happen depending on how far you are away. And if you don't have it selected, it will look very low poly. A lot of you've seen the low poly, like masks are really popular. Those paper masks that are low poly. But you really don't want it to look low poly or pixelated. So we wanna get a little bit more of a smoother surface. And so I'm just kind of moving around here. And at this point in the game, you're not really too worried about like the like I guess the axes that your thing is on, and we can move that later. Sometimes I tell you can worry about it, but right now I'm really not so super worried about it. You just need to know that Z is up and down and X and Y are across. So Z would be this way and X and Y would be this way or this way. And so when you kind of move around, you'll see that, and I can show you, you can kind of see, oh, take that. I'm going to go back in a little bit more so I don't get too much of my pixelation happening. But yeah, today, and you just want to focus on just playing with this and getting a little bit used to it. If you hold down control while you're sculpting, you can subtract. And so it kind of looks like I'm making an alien here, but you can subtract. Um, so usually I tell people just keep it on add, and then you just hold down control to subtract. Now you're gonna see when I go in really far, I can do details in here and just move around. But right now I'm not really aiming for anything, but you can see what I did there, and you see how much smoother that is than this other part of the mesh, and that's because I have this attached. I have the dynamic topology selected, and then I zoomed in and out. Now I'm just going to go ahead and rewind again with the Control Z, everything that you don't want, um, anything you don't like. But yeah, for now, what I want you to do is just kind of play with this. If I turn this some more, let's see. Oop, Control Z, that was a mistake. Another mistake. Hold on. I'm just going to start over. But the most important thing is if you start over and you go back to where you were selecting something, if you switch back and forth between object mode and sculpt mode, you'll have to go and select this thing again. Also, up here, you'll find that you can sculpt on one of these axes. You can select all three, and you could like kind of bring it all in at once. Um, all kind of, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So you could do that, and then if we look at this like this, just making a little bit of change. So I'm going to change my radius because I'm just getting a little bit out of control. Another thing you can do, there's a little button on the stylus where you can like click it. You can click it on the screen, and you can change your radius like that. You can change your strength, and you'll also see this thing called auto smooth. And auto smooth is kind of nice. So now you can see I'm doing a lot of times when people do like they're building a whole body or something like that, they'll have all 3D selected, or they'll have the X and Y selected so they can make two legs, two arms, and things like that. And there's tons of tutorials out there. One great things about Blender is there's tons of tutorials. There's tons of people who are just really awesome at it and way better than me. But I will say this: you just want to focus for now. All I want you to do is focus for now is getting used to this, and then kind of getting adjusted to working with this. And a lot of times people want to like add their eyes and nose and all this like kind of fine detail first. That will come later. Don't do that right this second. So focus on just getting the shape of your head and your hair. For me, if I was just looking at myself, I might kind of keep going and keep going and keep going. And I might take my time and do it. Let me move myself again. I might take my time and do that way, and then like kind of start with the back of my hair, go under. And this is a situation where maybe I do want to just do it on both the X and the Y, just because depends on how your hairstyle is. But you could see if you did it that way, you can go down. I sometimes like to just do things on the X axis. Some people like to add somewhat of a neck first. Um, I'm gonna just unselect everything, and it'll just work on the area where you can see it, which kind of sort of makes it easier for you. To be honest with you, like you kind of have an easier time if you could do it like that, because you can kind of see what's going on here. Like I'm pretending I'm looking at myself from a side view, and I'm just kind of going and going and going and going and going. And I'll go on the other side and do the same thing. Now I could select the axis and do that, but a lot of times you're dealing with asymmetry. Sometimes when you're dealing with hair, and I prefer not to even kind of go too symmetrical at first. And so sometimes I do that. I'll do that. So you just want to get used to it, and the more you get used to it, the better. I think doing this on a mouse is not as fun. I will say the Microsoft Surface Go thing is really a super huge advantage. You can see I already have my kind of like my hair stuff figured out there. I'm gonna go and add myself a neck sort of just for right now. I'm looking at under myself. So part of this is drawing in 3 dimensions, and you just have to remember where you were. So you can see I got something started, and then I'll go in. You could use this little hand to move yourself up. That's what I'm going to do. And it's very, very intuitive. You just need to like take the time and practice. So practice really does make perfect in this scenario, and taking your time to learn the things, you really will. I think you all will enjoy it. I'm going to show you really quick. I'm about to change my radius if my computer will. You can type this radius in too, which I'm about to do because I'm tired of trying to touch it. So you can see how small it is now. I am going to zoom in just a little bitty bit and kind of make some informational stuff here to show that I have like a face. And again, this is just like you need to think about this like a ball of clay. And if you're looking at yourself, you'll see, a lot of times I tell people go outside and go do like a little selfie. I mean, this is a selfie project. Oops. It is a selfie project. So, you're doing a self portrait, and you can just go and do it from observation. Doing my forehead. Maybe it was a little bit too much of a forehead. And when you get to when you make your radius smaller, it is going to make it easier for you to kind of figure out a few things. I'm going to go in for you can go really really far in, and you'll notice if you have that dipo selected, you will be able to get really kind of detailed in here. I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to go and make my radius smaller again. We go to 20, and then I can do like a little bitty some more line work here. You can see you can barely make out what I'm doing, but I promise you it matters. So you can do. So like I always suggest people start light, just mark where everything is at first. Like you might want to just mark where your mouth and your and all of the parts of your face are at first. Then go in there, and then you can change the strength up. You know, and the great thing about this translates from drawing really, 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 really nicely. It translates really, really well. If you draw, a lot of you draw portraits a lot, you'll see what I started so far. Like I didn't include my glasses or anything, but you totally could get real, real, real detailed with this and just kind of like get down with it. So I hope that you learned something during this. And I'm going to change this to 60 again. I hope you learned something with this. And again, you're going to have to practice. And like I said, I really highly recommend the Surface Go, especially since we have them at the school. And it's a really, really, really nice resource. I think I should do something different here. It's a really nice resource that we have. You can see how I just added that wasn't great right there. But yeah, you really want to just add the volume first, and that's so funny. Sometimes people create like a little. I think I clicked something too much. Oops. Over here, just because I accidentally hit that, I'm going to show you. This is called a mat cap. Mat caps are what your mesh will look like. Um, so just remember kind of going backwards just to get rid of that. No, I didn't want to do that. All right, yeah. And so when you get done, another really important thing is please go and save your work and do just save it as whatever you want to call it. So just save it, and you definitely want to make sure you save your work periodically. And that's pretty much where you should start on this. Don't kind of worry too much too quickly about um, what your piece, like what it's going to look like before you have time to really kind of get used to the software. Once you get the feel of this, you'll really enjoy playing with it. And a lot of you may want to just like write down. I know I have a few presets I set on my machine, um, my other machine that I use for doing this, and so I have like a little bit of a better kind of feel for it because I saved some things. You can do that. I'm gonna change this. So you can see, you got everyone. You all are really good drawers, so this will be really, really fun for you. So hope you have fun. All right.